You showed up, even when no one asked, even when no one noticed, even when it felt like your effort was invisible. You gave her the best years of your life. You stayed loyal, you stayed steady, you fixed the broken things, paid the bills, made it work. But in the end, you weren't chosen. You were tolerated. You became a background character in your own story. Let me share something with you. I once knew a man, we'll call him Mark. Every morning, Mark would brew coffee for two, even after the love was gone. Even when the silence grew louder than the TV, he stayed because he believed love meant holding on. And then one morning, she left quietly. No fight, no drama, just gone. And Mark, he still brewed 2 cups of coffee for weeks, until one day he looked at that second cup and whispered, "What about me?" Brother, maybe you've never said it out loud, but you've felt it, that ache of being present for everyone else, while slowly vanishing to yourself. Here's the hard truth. If you don't choose yourself, you'll spend your whole life hoping someone else finally will. This video is for every man who's ever felt unseen, every man who's been the rock for others, while quietly crumbling inside. And I want to share 9 shifts that changed everything for me. Not from books, from scars, from divorce, heartbreak, silence, and waking up one morning realizing I'd been giving discounts on my soul. We'll dive into how to stop overgiving just to feel wanted, how to build boundaries without becoming bitter, how to become rare again without chasing anyone, and stick around to the end, because I'll share the 30-second habit that pulled me out of my darkest season. I call it the sacred reset. Let's begin. There's a moment in every man's life when you catch your own reflection and realize you've been quietly auditioning for approval, not with grand gestures, but in the little ways that eat at your spirit, like texting first, again and again, like accepting half effort and calling it enough, like convincing yourself you're okay with breadcrumbs when deep down you're starving for something real. Have you ever done that? Reread a message 5 times before hitting send? Wondered if you sounded too much, just for expressing how you feel? Waited days for a reply, only to tell yourself, she's probably just busy. James did. He's 58, divorced, thoughtful, the kind of man who listens more than he talks. He met a woman through a dating app. They clicked instantly. She laughed at his jokes, sent sweet messages, talked about the future. But slowly, something shifted. She stopped texting first, cancelled plans, disappeared for days, then popped back in like nothing happened, with a casual, "Hey." And James? He leaned in more. He planned better dates, sent longer messages. He tried harder, believing, if I just show her how good I am, eventually she'll see. But here's the thing no one tells you. The more you try to prove your worth, the less they see it. Because real value, it doesn't chase, it doesn't beg, it doesn't try to win someone over. Real value simply is. And if someone needs you to shrink just to fit into their world, they were never meant to hold space in yours. That's the quiet shift we all have to face at some point. The moment we stop asking, "Am I enough for them?" and start asking, "Are they even capable of seeing me?" That realization opens the door to something deeper, something many men live with for years without realizing. The exhausting loop of overgiving. Let's explore that. And that habit of overgiving, it can feel noble until it starts hollowing you out. Most of us don't even realize we're doing it. We just say yes. We just show up. We just keep giving because deep down we're afraid that if we stop being useful, we'll stop being wanted. That was Howard's story. Howard was 67 years old, a widower, a grandfather. He met a woman through a mutual friend. She called when she needed help moving furniture, when she wanted company, when she needed a listener. And Howard, he always said yes, not because he didn't notice the one-way pattern, but because he feared the silence that might follow if he said no. Then one day his granddaughter looked at him and asked, "Grandpa, why do you look sad every time you're If phone rings, that question pierced through years of automatic giving, because in that moment, Howard finally saw it. He wasn't being cherished. He was being convenient, and all those quiet yeses, they taught her she didn't have to give anything back. That's when it hit him. Being available isn't the same as being valued, and maybe being kind without boundaries wasn't kindness at all. It was self-erasure. So how do we change that? How do we stay generous without being depleted? It begins with something most of us were never taught: how to protect what's sacred. Forgiveness is beautiful. It's what helps us heal, let go, and move forward without carrying bitterness in our chest. But forgiveness without boundaries, that's not healing. That's surrender. And brother, you weren't put on this earth to be taken for granted. You weren't born to be a discount version of yourself, just so someone else feels more comfortable. Let me tell you about Vince. Vince is 61. He's the kind of man who forgives quickly, always gives the benefit of the doubt. After his divorce, he started seeing someone new, bright, spontaneous, full of energy, but also unpredictable. She'd show up late, cancel last minute, say things that stung, then laugh it off like it was nothing. Vince let it slide again and again, because he told himself, everyone has flaws. Relationships take patience. And that's true, up to a point. But one night she missed his birthday dinner. No call, no explanation. The next morning she texted, "Sorry, got caught up. Hope you had fun anyway." And Vince? He almost replied with, "It's okay. Out of habit, out of fear." But something in him paused. He looked at that message and realized, every time I say it's okay when it's not, I'm teaching people how little I expect in return. That morning, he didn't respond with anger. He simply said, "That really hurt, and I won't pretend it didn't." It wasn't a fight, it was a boundary. And for the first time in years, he felt peace. Because here's the truth: saying no doesn't make you hard to love. It makes you honest. Every quiet no that honors your peace raises your worth. Not in dollars, but in energy, in how people treat you, and most importantly, in how you treat yourself. So if you've ever felt guilty for drawing the line, remember Vince. Kindness without clarity becomes a doorway for disrespect, and now that you're learning to protect your peace, it's time to reclaim something even more powerful: your presence. Here's a truth no one tells us: the more accessible you are, the more invisible you become. We were raised to always answer, to always help, to always be available. But Evelyn, she learned to unlearn that. She's 64, spent most of her life pouring into others, children, friends, co-workers. Always the first to pick up the phone, always the last to complain, until one Sunday morning, sitting at her kitchen table, she realized something heartbreaking. Her phone only rang when someone needed something, not when someone wondered how she was. So she made a quiet shift. She didn't ghost anyone. She didn't cut people off. She just started choosing herself a little more each day, letting calls go to voicemail, protecting her mornings, saying, "Let me think about it," instead of rushing to say yes. And slowly, something changed. The takers disappeared. The givers leaned in, with more care, more effort, more sincerity, because Evelyn had stopped being available for everyone and started being intentional for herself. And that brings us here. The truth is simple. You don't need to explain your worth. You don't need to argue for your boundaries. You don't need to wait for permission to protect your peace. You just need to remember your life belongs to you. And that's why I want to share with you something I call the sacred reset. Something simple, but powerful. Tonight, take a quiet moment for yourself. Find a still space, turn off the noise, and be fully present. Then, gently write down the following. First, what I truly need, without shame, without minimizing. Second, what I deeply deserve, even if you've forgotten it for years. Third, what I will no longer explain or apologize for, because your peace doesn't need permission, then tomorrow. Do just one small thing that aligns with that list. It could be saying no without guilt, choosing rest without justification, or even just taking a walk, alone and on your terms. Because the moment you stop negotiating with your value, you begin to move differently. People feel it. The ones who can't meet you there, they drift. The ones who can, they stay. So let me ask you, where have you traded silence for acceptance? Where have you stayed too long just to feel chosen? And what would shift in your life if just for today you chose yourself instead? If that question stirs something in you, drop it in the comments. This time, I choose me. Not as a slogan, but as a commitment to your own peace. Because the truth is simple, you're not an option, you're a standard, a quiet force, a man who no longer waits to be seen because he's already decided to see himself. Walk like it, you've earned it.